Have you ever wondered about the day that changed the course of world history, the day when the first atomic bomb was dropped? A day of stark significance during World War II, a day that marked the beginning of a new nuclear era, a moment that will forever be imprinted in our collective memory, the day the city of Hiroshima was abruptly brought to its knees by the devastating power of Little Boy. Join us as we delve into the chilling chronicles of the Hiroshima bombing. August 6, 1945 started like any other day for the residents of Hiroshima, but little did they know what was about to transpire. As the sun rose that day, unbeknownst to the citizens, a B-29 bomber of the United States, the Enola Gay, was already soaring high in the sky, carrying a weapon that would change the course of history. The weapon was a single atomic bomb, whimsically named Little Boy. The clock struck 8:15 in the morning, local time. The clear blue sky was suddenly lit up by a blinding flash of light. Little Boy had been dropped and detonated over the city. The explosion unleashed an unimaginable amount of energy, equivalent to approximately 15,000 tons of TNT. A searing heat, hotter than the surface of the sun, engulfed the city in an instant, followed by a shockwave that flattened buildings and shattered glass for miles around. The city, once bustling with life, was now a scene straight out of a nightmare. The explosion had a radius of approximately 1 mile, and within this zone, nearly everything was obliterated. Concrete buildings crumbled to dust, wooden structures were incinerated, and people were simply vaporized. Those who weren't instantly killed were severely injured by the blast wave or the intense heat. Beyond the immediate blast radius, the damage was slightly less severe but still catastrophic. Fires broke out, fueled by the wreckage and the wind, spreading rapidly and consuming what had been spared by the blast. The city, once a vibrant center of culture and commerce, was now a smoldering ruin. As the dust settled, the scale of devastation became apparent. An estimated 140,000 people were killed instantly or died within the first few hours, and many more were injured. The once thriving city of Hiroshima was now a charred wasteland. In an instant, the city was reduced to rubble and fires raged through the area. The blinding flash of light and intense heat was just the beginning of the horror. Once the dust had settled, the city of Hiroshima was a mere shadow of its former self. An eerie silence replaced the din of the city, pierced only by the cries of those who had survived. The city was reduced to rubble, fires raged uncontrollably, and the very fabric of life was ripped apart. The immediate aftermath was marked by human suffering on an unimaginable scale. An estimated 140,000 souls were instantly lost to the atomic blast. Those who survived the initial explosion were left with severe burns, injuries from the blast and, in many cases, radiation sickness. Hospitals were inundated with the injured, and medical supplies quickly ran out, leaving many to suffer without treatment. The faces of those who survived bore the horrific imprint of the bombing, their skin charred and peeling, their bodies riddled with injuries. But the physical injuries were just part of the story. The psychological impact on those who survived was equally devastating. Many survivors were left with deep psychological scars, haunted by the memories of that fateful day and the loss of their loved ones. For the city of Hiroshima, the bombing marked the beginning of a long and painful journey. The city was left in ruins, its infrastructure destroyed, and its people reeling from the shock of the attack. The recovery process was slow and arduous, marked by a constant struggle to rebuild and move forward. But the effects of the bombing didn't stop there. For those who survived, the long-term effects of radiation exposure were a ticking time bomb. Radiation sickness claimed many lives in the weeks and months following the bombing, while others suffered from long-term health problems, including cancer and other diseases. The immediate effects were devastating, but the long-term consequences were even more severe. The bombing of Hiroshima was not just a single event, but a disaster that continued to unfold for years, even decades, after that fateful day in August of 1945. The atomic bomb did not just destroy buildings, it shattered lives and left a lasting impact. The fallout from the Hiroshima bombing did not end with the immediate devastation and human suffering. It extended for decades, overshadowing the lives of survivors and their descendants. Radiation exposure from the atomic bomb introduced a silent, insidious threat. Those who survived the initial blast were not safe from its effects. The radiation began to break down their bodies from within, altering their very DNA. Cancer rates among the survivors, known as hibakusha, soared in the years following the bombing. Leukemia was particularly prevalent, appearing in survivors as early as 2 years after the event. Other forms of cancer, such as those affecting the lungs, stomach, and breast, also became more common. In addition to cancer, survivors experienced various health complications. These included cataracts, keloids, and chronic illnesses related to weakened immunity. The radiation also affected reproduction, leading to increased instances of miscarriages, stillbirths, and infants born with congenital malformities. But the effects of the bomb were not confined to the physical. The psychological trauma was equally profound. Survivors lived with the constant fear of developing radiation-related diseases. They faced social stigma and discrimination, often struggling to find employment or marriage partners. The effects also spanned generations. Children of survivors, known as Nisei Hibakusha, have shown increased rates of certain health issues including cancer. This is a potent reminder that the legacy of the bomb did not end with those directly exposed to it. In the face of such adversity, the people of Hiroshima showed remarkable resilience. They rebuilt their city, creating a thriving metropolis that stands as a symbol of peace and renewal. They also worked tirelessly to ensure that the world does not forget the horrors of atomic warfare, advocating for nuclear disarmament and peace. The people of Hiroshima not only had to rebuild their city but also their lives, forever marked by the tragic event. The echoes of the atomic bomb continue to reverberate, a poignant reminder of the profound and lasting impact of such devastating weapons. The Hiroshima bombing was not an isolated event. It marked a turning point in World War II. This cataclysmic moment signaled the beginning of the end, forcing Japan to face an enemy it could not overcome, an enemy that wielded a weapon so destructive it could decimate an entire city in an instant. The bombing of Hiroshima was not the end, however. As if to underscore the gravity of their newfound power, the United States dropped yet another atomic bomb, this one named Fat Man, on the city of Nagasaki just 3 days later. This second strike, even more devastating than the first, further amplified the horror and the reality of nuclear warfare. Japan, caught in the crosshairs of this terrifying new era, had no choice but to surrender. On August 15th, just over a week after the bombing of Hiroshima, Emperor Hirohito announced Japan's surrender to the Allied forces, effectively ending World War II. It was a moment of relief for a war-torn world, yet also a moment of deep reflection on the immense cost of victory. In the wake of this unprecedented devastation, the world was forced to grapple with the reality of nuclear warfare. The bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki served as a stark reminder of the power that mankind now held in its hands, a power that could either serve as a deterrent for future conflicts or, in the wrong hands, lead to unimaginable destruction. The use of nuclear weapons has since become a topic of intense debate and reflection. While some argue that the bombings were necessary to end the war, others contend that the human cost was too high, that we should never resort to such extreme measures regardless of the circumstances. From this perspective, the bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki serve as a dire warning, a call for humanity to tread carefully as we wield the power of the atom. To this day, these events continue to shape our understanding of war, power, and the value of human life. The use of atomic weapons in Hiroshima and Nagasaki remains a subject of debate and reflection on the devastating impact of such weapons. The Hiroshima bombing was a pivotal event in world history, forever etching August 6, 1945 in our minds. We've journeyed through the chilling details of that fateful day, when the United States, in a bid to end World War II, dropped an atomic bomb named Little Boy on the city of Hiroshima. The explosion, marked by a blinding flash and intense heat, led to widespread destruction, reducing the city to rubble and instantly claiming an estimated 140,000 lives. The aftermath was no less harrowing. Fires raged and survivors grappled with burns, radiation sickness, and other injuries. The long-term effects of radiation exposure added to the toll, leading to increased rates of cancer and other health problems. This event, along with the subsequent bombing of Nagasaki, played a crucial role in Japan's surrender, marking the end of World War II. Yet the bombings also opened a new chapter of debate and reflection on the use of atomic weapons and their devastating impact. As we've delved into this historical event, we've not only recounted a significant chapter of our past, but we've also borne witness to the immense power and tragic consequences of atomic warfare. As we reflect on the tragic events of that day, we are reminded of the devastating impact of war and the importance of working towards peace.